Tonight, you'll join a brave little girl named Iris as she discovers a secret world filled with gentle magic and kind fairy friends. In this peaceful adventure, you'll explore glowing meadows, meet 3 special fairies named Rune, Celeste, and Wren, and discover how speaking loving words to ourselves can make us feel strong and confident. So, snuggle up cozy, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin our dreamy journey together. Iris was the kind of little girl who loved quiet afternoons in her grandmother's garden. She had curly brown hair that danced when she walked, and eyes that sparkled with curiosity about everything around her. On this particular Saturday, while her grandmother napped in her favorite chair, Iris decided to explore the far corner of the garden where the old apple tree grew. The apple tree was ancient and wise, with branches that reached toward the sky like gentle arms. Iris had always felt drawn to this special spot, but today something seemed different. The air around the tree shimmered softly, like heat waves on a summer day, and the flowers nearby seemed to glow with an inner light. Iris took a deep breath and whispered to herself, "I trust myself to make good choices." She had discovered that saying things to herself helped her feel stronger, especially when something seemed a little scary or unknown. As she stepped closer to the apple tree, she noticed that one of its large roots had created a small archway in the ground. Soft golden light danced from within this tiny tunnel, and she could hear the faintest sound of tinkling music, like tiny bells playing a lullaby. "I am confident and courageous," Iris said softly, her voice growing more certain. She knelt down and peered into the glowing space beneath the root. A tunnel was just big enough for a little girl to crawl through, and it seemed to stretch much further than should have been possible. Iris felt her heart flutter with excitement rather than fear. She had always been good at trusting her instincts, and something deep inside told her this was a safe and magical discovery. Before crawling into the tunnel, she looked back at her grandmother's house, making sure she could still see it clearly. Then she whispered, "I can handle anything that comes my way." The moment Iris began crawling through the tunnel, she felt as though she was moving through warm, soft light. The walls around her weren't made of dirt and roots as she expected, but seemed to be created from crystallized starlight that glowed gently and felt smooth beneath her hands. After what felt like only a few moments, Iris emerged from the tunnel into the most beautiful place she had ever seen. She stood up and brushed off her knees, looking around in wonder at a meadow that stretched as far as her eyes could see. The grass beneath her feet was the softest green, and it seemed to sparkle with tiny dewdrops that caught the light from a sky filled with the most gorgeous sunset colors. "I am courageous," Iris said with a big smile, feeling absolutely certain that this was true. The meadow was dotted with flowers she had never seen before. Some looked like tiny lanterns that glowed from within. Others resembled small bells that chimed softly when the gentle breeze touched them. In the distance, Iris could see a forest of silver trees whose leaves shimmered like mirrors, and beyond that, mountains that seemed to be made of purple crystal. As Iris began walking across the meadow, she noticed that her footsteps left tiny sparkles in the grass behind her. She giggled with delight and started to skip, watching as golden glitter followed in her path. The air smelled like honey and vanilla, with just a hint of fresh rain and blooming jasmine. "I trust myself to make good choices," she said aloud, feeling more sure of herself than she had ever felt before. It was then that Iris heard voices, not human voices, but something much more musical and light. She stopped skipping and listened carefully. The voices seemed to be coming from a grove of flowering trees just ahead, where pink and white blossoms created a natural canopy. As she approached the grove, Iris saw 3 figures dancing among the flowers. They were about the same size as her, but they moved with a grace that reminded her of butterflies floating on summer air. Their clothing seemed to be made from flower petals and leaves, and each one glowed with its own gentle light. "I can handle anything that comes my way," Iris said to herself, preparing to meet these new and magical beings. The dancing figures noticed her approach and stopped their dance. Instead of being afraid or running away, they smiled warmly and waved. Iris felt her heart fill with joy as she realized she had discovered not just a magical place, but magical friends as well. One of the fairy creatures floated closer, and Iris could see that she had silver hair that seemed to hold actual starlight. Her dress appeared to be made from midnight blue flower petals, and when she moved, tiny silver sparkles fell around her feet like gentle snow. She spoke in a voice like tinkling chimes and told Iris that her name was Rune. She explained that she was the keeper of ancient fairy stories and helped lost travelers find their way home. Rune's eyes were kind and wise, and when she smiled, Iris felt as warm and safe as when her grandmother tucked her in at night. The second fairy was smaller and more playful, with golden hair that curled in spirals around her shoulders. Her dress seemed to be crafted from sunset clouds, shifting between pink, orange, and purple as she moved. She introduced herself as Celeste and said she was responsible for painting the sky each evening and morning. Celeste giggled like tiny bells and immediately began showing Iris how she could make small rainbows appear by waving her hands through the air. The colors danced and swirled, creating patterns that made Iris clap with delight. The third fairy was gentle and quiet, with auburn hair braided with tiny white flowers. Her dress looked like it was woven from grass and moss, and small birds seemed to follow her wherever she went. She told Iris that her name was Wren, and that she took care of all the animals and plants in the fairy realm. "I am confident and courageous," Iris said happily. And she was absolutely right. The three fairies immediately welcomed her, as if they had been waiting for her arrival all along. Rune suggested that they show Iris around their magical home, and the other fairies agreed enthusiastically. They began walking together through the meadow, with Celeste skipping ahead and creating small fireworks of color in the air, while Wren pointed out different flowers and their special properties. Rune walked beside Iris and told her stories about the fairy realm. She explained that this was a place where kindness and confidence created real magic, and that the more someone believed in themselves, the more beautiful and bright their surroundings became. They walked to a crystal clear stream that bubbled and laughed as it flowed over smooth, colorful stones. Wren showed Iris how the fish in the stream were actually swimming jewels, emeralds and sapphires and rubies that had come alive through the pure joy of the place. Celeste pulled up a handful of liquid starlight, letting it drip between her fingers like the most beautiful waterfall Iris had ever seen. She offered some to Iris, who cupped her hands and found that the starlight felt cool and tingly, like drinking happiness itself. "I can handle anything that comes my way," Iris said as she watched the starlight flow back into the stream. "Even magical things like this." Next, the fairies led her to their favorite gathering place. Rune explained that this was where the fairies came each evening to share stories and sing songs before the moon rose. Wren invited Iris to sit on one of the mushrooms, which felt as comfortable as the softest cushion. As soon as she sat down, the mushroom began to glow a little brighter, as if it was responding to her presence with joy. "I am confident and courageous," Iris said, watching in amazement as all the mushrooms in the circle began to shine more brilliantly. As they sat in the mushroom circle, Wren told Iris about the different creatures that inhabited the fairy realm. There were butterfly horses that could carry riders through the clouds, singing flowers that told jokes, and gentle dragons no bigger than house cats who loved to curl up by the fireplace and purr. Celeste showed Iris how she painted the evening sky by gathering colors from the flowers around them and tossing them high into the air, where they spread across the heavens like the most beautiful watercolor painting. "I trust myself to make good choices," Iris said thoughtfully, "and I think visiting here was one of the best decisions I've ever made." Rune told her that the best part about confidence was that it grew stronger every time you used it, like a muscle that became more powerful with practice. As the sun began to set in the fairy realm, painting the sky in colors that were even more beautiful than the sunset in her grandmother's world, Iris realized that she had never felt so sure of herself. The fairies had shown her a place where being exactly who she wasn't just enough, but absolutely perfect. "I can handle anything that comes my way," she said. The fairies spent the rest of the evening teaching Iris their favorite games and dances. They played hide and seek among flowers that giggled when you found them, and they danced to music made by crickets that sounded like tiny orchestras. When the moon rose full and silver over the fairy realm, casting everything in gentle, dreamy light, Iris knew that this had been the most wonderful day of her entire existence. As the evening deepened in the fairy realm, the three fairies gathered around Iris in the mushroom circle. The air had grown cooler and more fragrant, with the scent of night-blooming flowers and the soft sounds of fairy creatures settling in for the night. Rune looked at Iris with gentle eyes and said that while they would love for her to stay forever, they knew she belonged in her own world with her grandmother and all the people who loved her. But first, they wanted to give her a special gift to help her remember everything she had discovered about herself. "I am confident and courageous," Iris said, feeling grateful for these new friends and everything they had shared with her. Celeste reached into the air and pulled down 3 shooting stars, each one small enough to fit in the palm of Iris's hand. The stars were warm and bright, pulsing gently like tiny heartbeats made of light. Celeste explained that these were confidence stars, and whenever Iris held one and said her special words, she would remember the magic she carried inside her always. Wren presented Iris with a small flower crown made from blossoms that never faded. She placed it gently on Iris's head and told her that wearing it would help her remember that she was connected to all the beauty and wonder in both worlds, and that nature would always be her friend. Finally, Rune gave Iris a tiny crystal that looked like it held a miniature version of the entire fairy realm. She explained that by holding the crystal and closing her eyes, Iris could always return to this magical place in her heart whenever she needed to feel brave and sure of herself. "I trust myself to make good choices," Iris said, carefully tucking the crystal into her pocket along with the confident stars. The fairies walked with Iris back across the meadow toward the glowing tunnel beneath the apple tree root. As they walked, they talked about all the adventures Iris might have now that she knew how powerful her confidence could be. Rune told her that every time she said kind things to herself, she would be using real magic, just like in the fairy realm. Celeste reminded her that she could create beauty and joy wherever she went, just by believing in herself. Wren whispered that all the plants and animals in her grandmother's garden would sense her confidence and grow more beautiful because of it. When they reached the tunnel, the 3 fairies hugged Iris goodbye. She promised to visit again someday. "I can handle anything that comes my way," Iris said as she prepared to crawl back through the starlight tunnel, including saying goodbye to wonderful friends. The journey back through the tunnel felt even more magical than before. The crystallized starlight walls seemed to pulse with warmth, and Iris could swear she heard the fairies singing a farewell song that followed her all the way home. When she emerged from beneath the apple tree root, Iris found herself back in her grandmother's garden, just as the real sunset was beginning to paint the sky in gentle colors. Her grandmother was awake now, watering her roses and humming softly. Iris ran to her grandmother and told her all about her amazing adventure. Her grandmother listened with twinkling eyes and said she wasn't surprised at all because she had always known that Iris was the kind of girl who could find magic anywhere. That night, as her grandmother tucked her into bed, Iris held one of her confident stars and whispered, "I trust myself to make good choices. I am confident and courageous, and I can handle anything that comes my way. The star glowed softly in her hand, and Iris smiled as she drifted off to sleep, dreaming of fairy friends and magical meadows, and knowing that the most important magic of all was the confidence that lived right inside her heart. And so ends the tale of Iris and her journey to the fairy realm, where she discovered that the most powerful magic comes from believing in ourselves and speaking kindly to our hearts. Just like Iris, you carry wonderful magic inside you too. As you drift off to sleep tonight, remember that you are brave, you are capable, and you can handle anything that comes your way. May your dreams be filled with glowing meadows, kind fairy friends, and the warm, safe feeling that comes from knowing just how special and confident you truly are.